Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Happy Wednesday. Wednesday here is meditation time. My name is Keith. I'm your meditation teacher here on this channel, Meditation Breaks. And this channel focuses on a lot of different types of meditation, a lot of different ways you can meditate, try to present it in a practical way. It is a very practical thing that can benefit you and doesn't take a lot of time and all that great stuff. Today we're going to focus on something that somebody had brought up last time. And that was thinking about the difference between mindfulness and meditation. Is there a difference? What is the difference? What does each mean? We often hear these terms kind of interchangeably intertwined, used together. So we'll talk about that. Why are they paired together like that? And do they mean the same thing? And then we'll look at what they can do for you, each of them. Right. Thank you, Star and Shanika, for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Even though we always focus on a topic, I do like to start with just an introduction to meditation in general. A lot of people are new, which is awesome. It's really cool to explore new things. And so, don't feel like you need any sort of prerequisite class experience to be here. So we'll start, as we always do, introducing meditation in general, and then we will move on to our topic, and we'll do some meditations in between there as well. All right, cool. Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask me at any time. You don't need to wait for Q&A time. You can just chat in the chat feature. Take advantage of the fact that I'm live here with you. And of course, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, or I know whenever I'm watching something, I always think of a question after it ends. I'm going to give my email out. So anything that comes up as you're practicing on your own, feel free to just email me at any time. All right, cool. So we're going to get started. And sorry if my video is skipping a little bit. I've been having some weird issue with my computer the last 2 weeks. I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm clearly not doing a great job. So thanks for bearing with me. So when we think about meditation, the word I think that most commonly comes up is relaxation, right? We almost feel like it's a synonym, right? Like meditation equals no stress. It equals being relaxed. It equals being happy or whatever. And there's a reason that those are paired, right? We can kind of see the benefits. Those are kind of really benefits of meditation. But meditation is not creating relaxation. It's not like if I meditate, I will be relaxed, right? Because the reality is that you are relaxed. And I know you're thinking, you're like, no, I'm not. That's why I'm here. But you have a relaxed version of yourself. Maybe it doesn't come out that much, right? And you'd like for it to come out more, but it is there. Russ, when is the best time to meditate? Great question. It doesn't matter. It's whatever time. I always suggest picking a time that you're the least stressed. So I'm not a morning person. When I started meditating a long time ago, I tried to do it in the mornings because I was like, that's what a responsible adult will do. And I was always late, so my mind's really busy. And so I'm like, I'm going to try after work. And that was great for me. Doesn't matter. There's no better time. You just got to be honest with yourself about what time is good for you, in terms of not being stressed, not feeling rushed or anxious. Great question. So this relaxed version of yourself, right? We're trying to get it to come out more often. And that's where meditation comes into play. Meditation is simply teaching you to become familiar with something. That's literally the definition of it, familiarizing your mind with something, right? So if we think about being relaxed, if we can familiarize ourselves so much with relaxed you that guess what happens? Hey, we don't have to try so hard to have relaxed us show up. I think about riding a bike or learning to drive or walking, all these things that we do without much effort or thought now. It wasn't always that way, right? We became so familiar with the mechanics of them, mental, physical, that now we can, tie our shoe with our eyes closed and, walk backwards and all these incredible feats. Another cool example to kind of illustrate how this is so powerful for us, humans, is think about a stop sign, right? When you see a red hexagonal sign, you're like, whoa, stop. Like almost immediately. It doesn't even have to say stop. You're like, oh, stop. It wasn't always that way. We weren't born thinking like, oh, red stop sign, stop. You had no concept of that. In fact, the color red it was decided to be stop. Red isn't inherently stop or bad or like warning. It was decided, right? And then what happened? Over the course of your life, through repetition, familiarity, you're so familiar with associating red hexagonal sign as stop that instantaneously it pops up, right? Which is great. It turns into like being aware and, being safe when we're, driving and things like that. So this concept of familiarity, teaching our mind to become familiar with stuff, it is our superpower, right? We can, just like we learned how to instinctively, without much effort, associate red equals stop, we can become super familiar with kindness, patience, relaxation, right? All these wonderful things that we want to cultivate in our life. Belinda, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. So this is our superpower. Now, it can also be is it kryptonite? I think it's Superman I'm referencing. It can also work the other way. Anxiety, anger, right? Think about anger. We don't have to try to get angry. We're not stopping. Hold on a second. I have to try to get angry. It happens effortlessly because our mind has had a lot of practice getting annoyed. And so it's very familiar with that. Right? So it works both ways. And what we're doing here today together, and as you embark on your meditation journey, your goal is to start to choose what you want your mind to be familiar with. Do you want your mind to be more familiar with patience than anger? Do you want your mind to be more familiar with being calm or being anxious, right? I think I know which way we'll go. But this is our goal. And meditation is a tool, an excellent, wonderful tool in helping us achieve this goal. All right. Heather, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Rosa, thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling better. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for checking in. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do with meditation. Right? We are using it to train our mind to become familiar with good stuff, things that we want it to be familiar with. Now, before we can kind of get there, we have to start to learn step one. And step one is clearing out some of the busyness in our mind. Our mind is very busy. It's being pulled in directions, like a million directions all day long. Think about work, worry about this project. I got to get home, got to feed the kids. Like all of these things are constantly happening. Right? And when our mind is really busy, we can't really use it to its full capacity. Right? It's just, there's only so much energy that we can dedicate. So we're going to start by doing breathing meditation, which is great at clearing away some of the busyness in our mind. An analogy I like to use is if you imagine you're on a little nature walk and you come across a lake, it's a beautiful day. There's no wind. There's no wind anywhere. You could see the reflection in that lake very clearly. Right? Wouldn't really take much effort. You could describe it to me. And if I were to, ask you, you could probably describe it like you're looking at it directly. Now, if the rain starts to pick up, the wind starts to kick up, that reflection, what happens to it? Less clear. Maybe you can still kind of make out a tree or a mountain or whatever. But the details, right, starting to get a little cloudy. And then if maybe there's a big storm happening, you might not be able to see the reflection at all, right? So this is exactly what's going on with our mind, right? Our mind, by default, is the still lake. Calm, peaceful, cool, calm, collective, thinking about our problems objectively. All of the busyness, the things that are pulling for our attention all day long, they're like little raindrops falling on the surface, right? And they're making it hard for us to find peaceful you, right? It's in there, just like the reflection is always there. It's just kind of obscured. Peaceful you, calm you, happy you, kind you, it's always there. We just got to work at clearing away some of the raindrops so we can observe it and be like, oh, there it is. Right? So that's where we're going to start. And informally called breathing meditation. If you want to get fancy about it, you can call it single-pointed concentration. All it means is we're going to focus exclusively on one thing. We're going to focus so exclusively on one thing that there's no room for other stuff. All right? If you've ever been like in the zone working on something at work, you might have experienced something similar. Noises that are normally very apparent to you, they fade away. You lose track of time. Someone's calling your name, you don't hear it, right? Pinpoint concentration can result in almost like a calming effect, right? All the other business fades away. So we're going to start to learn how to do that intentionally, and we're going to start to learn how to do that intentionally using our breath as our focal point. For good reason. Your breath's always with you, right? So if you can become pretty used to using your breath as this point of relaxation, that's great. You can kind of do this wherever, whenever, which is our goal. So we're going to do a little breathing meditation now together. It is not going to be long. If you've never meditated before, maybe you're like, I think you got to meditate for an hour in like a cave or something. No, it doesn't matter how long you do it. Consistency is really the most important thing. We're going to do short. I mean, it won't be more than 5 minutes. I don't really count, but it's not going to be very long. And instructionally, pretty straightforward. I will be guiding the meditation so you can follow along with what I'm saying. But what we're going to do is 3 steps. First, we're going to choose to focus exclusively on our breath. We're just like kind of making a promise to ourselves. I'm going to do that. We're deciding. We're telling our mind, focusing on one thing. We're not multitasking. And then we're going to do that. And whenever we notice that our mind is starting to drift, and it will, that's fine. We're just going to be like, not right now, to whatever thoughts our mind's trying to go drift away and think about. And we're going to guide our attention back to our breath. That's it. Choose to focus on something. Notice when your attention drifts, bring your attention back. That's it. That's the practice of meditation. All right. So let's do that now. Sound good? Cool. Now, if this is your first time, maybe you're like, well, I see everybody sits on the floor when they meditate. It doesn't look comfortable. I agree. It doesn't look comfortable. You don't need to do that. There is no perfect seating arrangement for meditation. If you find it nice to sit on the floor, that's great. Or a cushion. You could sit in a chair. You want to lay down, had a long day. You do whatever you want. Just make sure you're relatively comfortable. And then you can go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, first things first, take a moment, check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? Maybe you're tired, you had a long day. Maybe your day's just getting started and you're feeling energetic. Maybe you're happy. Maybe you're upset. maybe somewhere in between. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. We're not doing anything about it. We're just practicing noticing. Noticing what our mind is up to. This is the basis of a technique we're going to talk a lot about today called mindfulness. So just take a moment and check in. Having done that, you can now make a choice. Choose to turn your full, undivided attention to your breath. Single-pointedly focused on breathing in, breathing out, gently and naturally. There is no need to take big, deep breaths or to forcefully exhale air. Just breathe as you normally would, whatever comes natural to you, in and out. Allow yourself to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion. Very natural, very smooth, gentle breathing. Following each moment of each breath. In and out. At some point, you will no doubt find that your attention starts to drift a bit. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier today. Maybe you're planning for later, something that you have to do after this class ends. Whenever you notice that your mind is drifting to these thoughts, we can just very gently say, not right now. We'll get to those thoughts later. And then purposefully, intentionally, guide your focus back to breathing. Back to following each breath in and out, gently, naturally. So plugged in to each moment of your breath that we start to develop an interest in breathing. See if you can follow the air for its entire journey as it leaves the atmosphere into your body with each inhale, filling your lungs with air, breathing life into you. And then following that air as it exits back into the atmosphere. Merging effortlessly with the rest of the air. A moment-to-moment interest in breathing in and out. Gently, naturally. As you begin to relax even more into your chair or cushion, keep bringing your attention back to your breath. Anytime you notice it drifting, this process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being able to guide your attention back. That's meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on, what's important to you in this moment. You're teaching your mind to become familiar with your relaxed self. How wonderful. So just for the next couple of moments, just continue to breathe. Enjoy sitting here, relaxing, just you and each breath. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. So that was a breathing meditation. Nothing too fancy there. It was 3 steps. We're just kind of doing it over and over again. Heather, I work with kids all day, and I have an autistic kid to take care of when I get home. Any advice on how to manage all of this? I tend to keep busy all the time. Yeah. So this is one of the big hurdles, right? Is that our life is busy, right? We have a lot of responsibilities, and when we're, I'm over here being like, well, sit quietly, and you're like, oh, wow, that's nice. I don't have any time for that. So breathing meditation is a very common entry point into meditation, but it is not the only way to meditate. I do a whole class on kind of activity-based meditations for people who are very busy, and maybe they don't have a lot of time to themselves. Maybe I'll do that next week. If you're gonna be around, I'll do that class next week. But there's a lot of different things you can do. One I suggest a lot is if you do have a busy household, maybe when you come back, when you're coming home from work, before you walk through that door, you're in your car in the driveway, and you're just taking a minute and closing your eyes, doing a very short minute breathing meditation. Right? That's your little time there. Nobody has to know. And then you go inside and you go about your business. But it's all about trying to find times that meditation will work for you without it seeming like a burden. And there's a lot of really cool things that we can do. Like you can meditate while brushing your teeth. That's a good one. You do that twice a day, right? Normally we think about other stuff when we brush our teeth. But if we decided, hey, I'm going to think about how the bristles feel as they're rubbing against my teeth. We're focusing single-pointedly on something. Then we're noticing when our attention is thinking about work or whatever, and then we're bringing our attention back to brushing our teeth, right? So this is the kind of beauty of meditation. It is not just reserved for sitting down quietly breathing. Right? We can get creative. The only thing that is required in order for something to be considered an intentional meditation is that you're choosing to focus on a specific thing, noticing when your attention drifts, bringing it back. Right? Cool. Great. Glad that was helpful. All right. So let's go on to our topic for today, which is very closely related to things we were just talking about. It is the buzzword to end all buzzwords, mindfulness. Is there a difference between mindfulness and meditation? Right? They're often used together. Even I do that. Right? Mindfulness meditation. Right? Practice mindfulness. Right? Like the two words, they're like conjoined almost. But there is a difference between them, right? And Dolores, you're new to this. That's great. Amazing. Like, look, you're here. That's incredible. And like, I think a lot of times when people start, they're like, man, I got distracted. I'm not a good meditator. You're going to get distracted. That's not the goal. The goal is not to never get distracted, but to notice when you're distracted and be able to kind of reel it back in. That's me fishing, I think. Okay. So mindfulness and meditation are often kind of used together, but they do not mean the exact same thing, right? But there's good news. When you're doing one, you're almost kind of doing the other in a way, right? Ibrahim, you get distracted. We all do. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about how quickly you get distracted. Whenever you notice, be like, bring your attention back. That's it, right? No judgment, right? Doesn't matter. Okay, so mindfulness is like a sibling of meditation. Now, we kind of defined meditation earlier today. We talked about how it is a technique used to familiarize your mind with stuff, right? And mindfulness is a tool to help you do that. So the problem here with all these wonderful things that we learn is that we forget them, right? It's hard to recall them. Sometimes we remember them by accident, and like, oh yeah, that thing Keith said. Oh yeah, I'll do that, right? But oftentimes our life is moving so fast that we often don't recall some of the practice that we do when we meditate, right? So I like to think of mindfulness as a smoke alarm, right? What happens when a smoke alarm goes off? Right? Something's happening, right? Now, the smoke alarm does not stop a fire, right? The smoke alarm isn't even saying fire, right? It's like a warning to us. It's like, hey, knock, knock, something's happening. You might want to go check it out. Right? So that is this idea of mindfulness. It's like a little smoke alarm in our mind that detects early detection when our mind is kind of gravitating towards, say, getting frustrated or getting anxious. You can think of anger, anxiety, all these kind of negative mind states. They're sort of like a forest fire, right? Forest fires start as a little flame, and if you were there with a bucket of water, you dump it on the flame, and the forest is saved. But if you're not there, if you're unaware that there is a flame, what happens? It starts to spread, right? Same with anger. It starts as a little thing, starts to spread and infect our day, infect our life, right? Same with anxiety. A little thought pops up, right? Tiny little thought turns into a worry. We start catastrophizing. So all of these kind of negative mind states that we don't like, they are like these fires. And so we need an early detection system, because when a forest fire happens and it spreads, it can still be extinguished, but it takes a lot more effort, doesn't it? Right? It's not as easy if it's one little flame. So mindfulness's job here, and the reason really that we want to practice it, is to catch what our mind is doing earlier on. That way we can act on it skillfully, find skillful ways of managing it. It takes less effort to manage. Right? Cool. Now, when we're meditating, we just did a breathing meditation, right? So we're sitting down, we're saying, I'm going to focus on my breath. And then what are we doing? We notice when our mind drifts. And we're like, oh, my mind's drifting. Bring it back. That's actually practicing mindfulness, right? It's a little early detection, right? Whoop, you're drifting. Bring it back. Now, at first, it might take you a while to notice, right? Might be really deep into what we're going to cook for dinner. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait, I'm thinking about dinner, not my breath, right? And so by practicing mindfulness, we can notice when our attention is diverting from what we want it to be on more quickly. Right. And I know I use the kind of smoke alarm example, and obviously smoke alarms are there to prevent, negative thing, like a house fire or something. But it also works for good, right? Mindfulness having good mindfulness can be extremely beneficial to notice positive things, right, in our life, right? Sometimes we're kind of wrapped in frustration and we miss some beautiful things that are happening around us. Sometimes I take walks, and sometimes my mind's thinking about work and maybe I'm frustrated. But there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening when I'm taking a walk, right? People are laughing, there's birds chirping. I live in Colorado, it's beautiful scenery. It's always there, it's waiting for me to enjoy it. But if my mind is elsewhere, then I can't enjoy it. Right? So mindfulness helps us detect when our mind is heading towards negative, and it also can kind of remind us of positive, good, right? So this is really the benefit of mindfulness, and often the word awareness is used with it, which is, I think, a pretty good word for it, but it's an intentional awareness. It's not like there's a tree and there's a rock and here's the floor and there's the sky. That's just like thinking about stuff, noticing things. But we're noticing for a reason, right? We are purposefully paying attention to what our mind is doing. Why? So we can respond skillfully to the things that our mind is thinking about, right? This is not easy at first, right? Brenda, when I walk for meditation, I look for a particular color I have chosen. Oh, I love that. I love that, Brenda. Awesome. A really cool way to practice meditation that isn't traditionally sitting down and breathing. I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to look for yellow. I don't know. I picked color. I love that. Yeah. Really cool. It's a great suggestion. People might want to try that. Sounds great to me. Okay. So we have the early detection system of mindfulness, right? And another kind of hidden benefit of mindfulness is we start to find some subtle joys, right? Like I was saying with the kind of walking down the street example, there are subtle joys when we walk down the street, right? People embracing, laugh, they're always there. There's always these like really subtle, joyful things that are happening. But we have to kind of be open enough to see them. Right? If our mind is locked into work or worry, then our walk, we can't notice these things. So a hidden benefit of mindfulness is joy, happiness, right? So practicing this has, a lot of awesome, ramifications for benefiting your life. You'll be able to notice when you're getting anxious or angry or this and that earlier on. You'll be able to kind of put out the fire before it spreads and becomes harder to manage. And also, naturally, you're going to start to pay attention to some of the more cool, joyful things that are going on around you, right? So mindfulness is key to meditation. In fact, I think it's pretty much the first step in like starting to make meditation help like transform your life, right? Help transform your mind, because you come here on Wednesdays and that's great, but there's a lot of time that isn't Wednesdays at 8:30 or whatever time it is by you, and so practicing mindfulness, getting that kind of mental smoke alarm to start to pop up more naturally, is what's really going to help you start to recall some of the things that we learned here today and be able to manage negative mind states easier. Heather, you practice meditation with your kids when you're outside. That's amazing. Incredible. Right? I have taught kids a lot, and I think kids are like the most fascinating meditators. Oh, incredible. Right? Totally different mindset, no preconceived notions, really. Cool. So there is a difference between mindfulness and meditation. Meditation is a technique used to train your mind to become familiar with something. And mindfulness is a technique that is used to detect when our mind is drifting from the things that we want to focus on, right? And those two together are really the key to unlocking this superpower that you have in your mind, your ability to teach yourself anything, to become so familiar with something that it happens effortlessly, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we were so familiar with being patient that we didn't have to try so hard to be patient? We wouldn't have to stop and be like, oh, hold on a second, I need a minute, It'll just start to come up a little more naturally, right? So this is the distinction between the two. And like I mentioned, when we're meditating, we actually are naturally kind of participating in a mindfulness practice too. So what I want to do now is do another breathing meditation. Going to be pretty similar to what we just did, but now we have a little extra knowledge about what's going on there, right? Superpower would be less anxiety. So I have mentioned this many times. I got into meditation originally for like clinical anxiety and depression. And one of the coolest takeaways that I've had from meditating is realizing like, hey, you know what? Keith doesn't equal anxious, right? Keith's mind, my name's Keith. Keith's mind goes through periods of anxiety, but Keith, the core of me, is not anxious, right? It's a kind of like a passing storm, right? Deep down, I am calm. I am, fun. I'm relaxed, and make mental space for other people, right? That's like what is inside of me. I just have to practice becoming so familiar with those parts of me that they start to show up more often than the anxious part, right? Gail, yes, I would say that it has. Okay, so we're going to do another breathing meditation, but now we're doing it with a bit more insight, right? And the insight is that we're also practicing mindfulness. So when we're keeping a little eye out from when we're getting distracted, that's us practicing mindfulness, bringing our attention back. That's us acting on our little mindful alarm, right? So now with these two, we're going to engage in breathing meditation, and we're going to see how they kind of play off of each other. Cool? Okay. All right. Get comfy again. If you weren't here for the beginning, doesn't matter if you're sitting in a chair or whatever, just make sure you're relatively comfortable. And you can go ahead and close your eyes, and I will guide us through another short breathing meditation. Okay. Let's take a moment and check in once again. How are you feeling now? We're not comparing it to before. Before is done. There's only now. What is your mind up to? We now know why we're doing this little exercise here at the beginning of our meditation. We are practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your thoughts moment to moment for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. So take a moment, check in. Having done that, you can now once again choose to focus single-pointedly on your breath. Make a promise to yourself for the next 5 minutes. The only thing you're going to focus on is breathing in and breathing out gently and naturally. And following each moment of each breath, focusing on the air as it enters and exits, consistently, smoothly breathing in and out. Your mind does what it's used to doing, and normally our mind is thinking about many things at once. And so you might find that your mind tends to go and do that when we're meditating. But we have a special helper, mindfulness. Mindfulness is our little alarm, and it goes off when we notice our attention drifting away from our breath. And we can just say, "Not right now," to those other thoughts. We'll get to them later. They can wait. And then guide your attention back to breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Keep checking in. Is your little mindfulness alarm going off? If it is, just say "not right now" to those extra thoughts. Guide our focus back to breathing. Doesn't matter how many times we need to do this. Breathing in, breathing out, gently and naturally. As you really start to focus single-pointedly on your breath, you may notice some interesting things about breathing, things that have always been there. Maybe you're just paying attention to in a different way or for the first time. Maybe you're noticing how the air feels cool temperature-wise every time you inhale. Interesting. And that same air, it feels a bit warmer, doesn't it, when you exhale? How interesting. Maybe you're noticing your body participating in breathing. Your shoulders rising on your in-breath and falling on your out-breath. Your chest expanding, contracting. Every aspect of your body an active participant in every breath, in and out. Single-pointedly focusing on an activity can reveal some subtle joys, subtle interests, subtle fascinations about the activity itself. Right now, you're starting to find some subtle joys in breathing. How wonderful to be able to enjoy something as simple and accessible as your own breath. Imagine what else you can enjoy simply by choosing to focus on it. So just for the last few moments here, just enjoy breathing. Don't worry about anything else. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back. There was just a kind of slight, really not even much of a deviation from what we did previously, but we're doing it with this knowledge that we have a buddy. Meditation has a buddy, and that's mindfulness. And our little mindfulness alarm is going off and saying, hey, you were thinking about work. And we're like, oh, whoops. I'll think about work later. And then we bring our attention back, right? Now, without that buddy, we might never know that we're getting distracted, or, we notice 20 minutes in. And so this is the wonderful relationship between training in mindfulness and training in meditation. Now, aside from practicing mindfulness when you are actively meditating, something that I have found to be helpful, I suggested a lot to those that are kind of new and veterans alike of meditating, is set an alarm on your phone. This is your mindfulness alarm. And I know it seems very forceful at first, like, oh, it's an alarm. But this is not normal for us to check in with ourselves to see how we're mentally doing. So we have to kind of get in the habit of it. Eventually we won't need an alarm, but we're going to set a mindfulness alarm, or if you hate alarms, maybe a sticky note by your work computer or something. And whenever this alarm goes off, or your eye catches that sticky note, you're going to stop what you're doing just briefly and just do what we did in the beginning of the meditation. What's my mind up to? We're not doing anything about it. We're not acting on it. We're not like, oh, I'm going to go meditate now. We are just getting used to noticing what our mind is up to. We're getting used to checking in on ourselves mentally, right? And over time, just like everything else, this is going to become more and more familiar to us, to the point where your mindfulness is going to kick in naturally. Belinda, your breathing was better, but boy, did your mindfulness work overtime. That's its job. Right? And your mindfulness is like, well, I got to work overtime now, but it knows that down the line, it's going to get a nice, easy schedule. All right. But if there's no other takeaway from today, don't worry about how many times you have to pull your attention back. Legit doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your catching yourself doing that, and then you're bringing your attention back, right? That's a tough thing to do. I still struggle with that, right? We want to be the best. We want to have a perfect meditation, right? But meditation is perfect no matter what, or no matter how it goes, right? Because this act of sitting down, bringing our attention back, that's the practice, right? Not never getting distracted, all right? So let your mindfulness work overtime a little bit. Cool. So that's our class for today. I hope you had a good time. If you did, come back. Next week, we're going to talk about something else, meditation related. Thank you again to those that subscribed during the live stream. I really do appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And cool benefits for you. All my old videos are up there. You can check them out. You get notifications when I'm going live. A little forced mindfulness, I suppose. So anyone who does subscribe, I do appreciate that. Thank you. And then finally, if you are like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm into this. I'd like to see where I can go with meditation. I do teach one-on-one classes. I also do group if you want to bring me into work. If nothing else, you get a little time off work, right? It's a win-win. But I do a lot of one-on-one classes. I do them over Zoom. It's very casual. If that sounds interesting to you, you can just email me and we'll find a time that works. I'll put my email in the chat right now. I'll say it too. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. I'm saying this for me, so I can type it. keith@meditationbreaks.com. That's my email. Feel free to email me any questions that you have, or if you're interested in doing some private study or whatever, you just want to say hi, go ahead. Always happy to hear from you guys. Belinda, thank you. I'm glad you had a good time. Heather, I'm glad your first experience was positive. I do hope to see you again. Thank you, Patrick, Awinda, Rosa. Thank you guys for always being here and supporting me. I couldn't do this without you, and you guys are the best. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see each and every one of you next week here. Same time, Wednesday. All right. Goodbye.